Welcome back to another episode of Forecast Lab. Not a whole lot going on around the country. We do have another Pacific weather system moving through the Rockies. That's bringing a mix of rain and snow to the western states. It appears things are starting to wind down in the tropics. Tropical storm Sara, 50-mile-an-hour winds on the north coast of Honduras. It's expected to strengthen into a strong tropical storm, 60-mile-an-hour winds, moving into Belize, and then crossing the Yucatan Peninsula Sunday and Monday. There it is at the current time in the Western Caribbean, moving along the coast towards Belize, and then early next week, it will open up into a trough and be pretty much gone, although this next Pacific system will pick up the moisture going into Monday and Tuesday. There's the weather analysis we had late this afternoon. A pretty strong thermal gradient through the Rockies into the Great Basin area. Cold air mass flowing in from Oregon into California, Nevada. Temperatures not terribly cold, down in the 40s and 30s, but we will have progressively colder air flowing southward as we go into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Cold front moving through western Colorado into western New Mexico, and ahead of it, a modified continental tropical air mass up to almost 80 degrees at El Paso. But to the east, we've got this polar air mass, kind of a mix of Pacific and Canadian air, pushing some rather cool temperatures southward. We had 30s in parts of Texas this morning, and we will see a warm-up as this next weather system approaches, putting us back under warm advection. Here's a look at the upper air situation, an amplified pattern, a rather continuous belt of westerlies flown in from the Pacific across the United States and out into the Atlantic. One trough in the western U.S., driving that system there in the Rockies, another trough off the East Coast with a very wound-up system south of Newfoundland. As we go into the weekend and into early next week, a high index EPO pattern. We're talking about the East Pacific Oscillation. Pretty much a large amount of moisture and wind flowing in through that gate between Hawaii and Alaska. And some of that will make its way onto the west coast starting around Sunday into Monday, bringing a minor atmospheric river to that part of the country and an even deeper system as we go into Wednesday. I'll show you a couple charts for that particular area. Some rather impressive winds at 850 millibars. It is a must-see. That'll be coming up shortly. In the northeastern U.S., cold advection has returned once again. Temperatures back down in the 30s and 40s in New England and New York, and 50s further south. Red flag warnings continue for much of the area from Boston all the way down towards around Philadelphia, winds gusting up to 30 miles an hour. That'll continue through Saturday. Coastal flood advisory for Chesapeake Bay, Delaware, and much of Virginia. I think that is due to tidal effects. They're looking for 1 foot of inundation. In the southeastern U.S., offshore, we can see this spectacular little low moving across the Gulf Stream and out into the Atlantic. Behind it, cold advection flowing into the coastal regions of the southeast. It has been a cool day with highs around 60 in North Carolina and around 70 from Jacksonville, Florida to Jackson, Mississippi, and we're still finding upper 80s around Miami. Coastal flood advisories all along the Atlantic coast and into the Everglades, and again, I think that is due to tidal effects. The bulletins don't really have much information, so I'm going to assume that that's what that is. And then we head into the southern plains. Again, we started out with a cold morning, 36 at Waco, 38 at Austin. Temperatures have rebounded into the 70s and 80s. Up to the north, still snow cover from Denver, Lyman, all the way down towards Clayton, Raton, and Las Vegas, New Mexico. Not really any problems to speak about in the northern plains. Highs have been in the 50s with 60s across Kansas into eastern Nebraska and southeastern South Dakota. Then we head into the southwest. We can see that that frontal system is a dry weather system. As we typically see with these antifront situations, most of the upper level lift is well to the west, and here we also pick up the effects of the upper level trough with that cold air aloft. Winter weather advisory all through the Sierras, looking for 6 to 13 inches of snow in the southern part of the Sierras, with 3 inches further north. Some of that winter weather expanding into western Nevada. That does expire tonight, however. They were looking for half an inch of snow in the valleys and 3 inches on the slopes. There's a look at that upper level trough affecting California. We do have a winter weather advisory through tonight in the coastal areas around Los Angeles, the San Jacinto Mountains up to Big Bear, looking for 1 to 3 inches for tonight. Wind advisory through tonight in western Los Angeles up to Oxnard, Antelope Valley, Tehachapi Mountains, Mojave Desert, looking for west winds gusting to 40 miles an hour with 55 miles an hour possible in the interior. That includes Lancaster, Palmdale, and Barstow. High surf and rip currents along the beaches through early this weekend, and heading up north into wine country. They do have freeze warnings all through that area. Along the 101 in Monterey County, from Greenfield to Bradley, looking for temperatures down to 29. And also in Sonoma and Napa counties, they're looking for temperatures down to 29 as well. In the northwestern U.S., winter weather advisories from the Wasatch Range up into eastern Idaho, looking for 3 to 6 inches of snow there. Also along Interstate 84, Twin Falls to Pocatello, looking for about 1 to 4 inches of snow, mostly above 5,500 feet. High wind watches and warnings late Saturday through Sunday in northwestern Montana between Great Falls and Glacier National Park. They're looking for southwest winds gusting to 65 miles an hour with 80 miles an hour on the higher elevations. Winter storm warnings all through the Cascades. Further south into Oregon, that's actually a winter storm watch at the current time. 12 to 24 inches of snow are possible. This will be a pretty complex situation. The snow levels will rise to 6,000 feet on Saturday, then plunge to 2,000 for Sunday. Let's take a look at that winter storm on the coastal weather GFS charts. Here it is, that west coast perspective. These charts are not analyzed, so bear with me. But you can see this warm front right here, outlined by that red mark, the cold front out to the west. This is all approaching Washington and Oregon going into Saturday. So there it is, the snows starting up late Saturday as that warm advection gets going later on Saturday and early Sunday. That will bring up those snow levels. But just to the west, there's the cold front. That will bring the cold air advection as we go into Sunday, and we get those snow levels start to fall once again. And then as we go into Sunday night and Monday, some improvement. Much of the weather system will be heading into the interior. Snows all through Idaho, northern Nevada. And then we get the next system. This is going to be even more significant. Look at that. 950 millibar low. That's going to be Tuesday evening. And this has some very strong winds at the surface. Winds up to 65 knots sustained along the west coast. And the frontal positions, they're going to look something like this. And then further up north, we have the occluded front, all wrapped into that very deep low. So the main Bear Clinic development area, that's going to be to the south. That's where the interface is between the cold and warm air, and the occlusion further north will gradually start filling. So there it is going into Wednesday and Thursday. Another winter weather system inland. Lots of rain for the Oregon and Northern California coast. Another atmospheric river coming in. And here comes another wave on the tail end of the front for later in the week. So yeah, a very stormy start to this winter weather season out west. This is the 850 millibar chart I was going to show you. I was focusing on the weather in the central U.S., but something caught my eye out to the west. So let's go into Monday and Tuesday. We're going to get back to the central U.S. stuff shortly, so don't worry about that. Yeah, look at that right there. extreme winds along the west coast at 850 millibars. That's about 5,000 feet or so, up to about 100 knots west of Astoria. So for a brief time, very, very strong. Of course, this is subject to change. We've seen the models back down on some of these extreme weather systems. However, we'll just kind of keep an eye on it. You can see it dissipating right there going into Thursday and Friday. And let's go into the central U.S. and redo this. So there's where we're at this evening. A low-level jet established from the Texas Caprock up to South Dakota, 30 to 40 knot winds. However, that is dry. It's not really tapping much moisture. And later tonight, that does strengthen up to 50 knots across Kansas and Nebraska. And let's go into tomorrow night. Well, not much going on, but the moisture will be flowing northward. The dynamics not really in place just yet, but later on Sunday, they really come together. 60 to 70 knot flow across Texas, Oklahoma. This could be a stormy period late Sunday and early Monday. And then these dynamics will lift north into the Great Lakes for Tuesday and Wednesday. And that's replaced by this strong cold advection around midweek. So a cold blast coming south. Very deep low there in the eastern Great Lakes. Cold advection continues through Friday next week. 850 millibar chart is very useful for tracking that kind of air mass movement. So it will be a cold period on the East Coast with warm and unsettled weather in California and Nevada for next week. Let's take a quick look at the dynamics on the 500 millibar Q vectors. We do see an area of lift moving across Arizona this afternoon into this evening and progressing into New Mexico and Colorado for Saturday. Large area of ascent building across the Gulf of California into Arizona for Saturday and kind of coalescing out there in northwest Mexico. This is an area of frontogenesis that will emerge into Texas for Sunday and Monday. So starting out early Sunday, a lot of dynamics going on in West Texas. I'm not sure if we're going to see thunderstorms that far west, but certainly some very potent upper lift. Then we go into Sunday night. Those dynamics roll out into the lower elevations, into the I-35 corridor early on Monday. And because of the timing with the diurnals, this is probably going to be mostly forced convection, maybe a squall line along Interstate 35, and then pushing towards the east into Arkansas, the Ozarks, Missouri for later on Monday. So this is kind of a negative tilt trough. Then we go into Tuesday and Wednesday. Dynamics lifting northeast. Here comes another wave into the Great Plains. I don't know if we have enough air mass recovery then. Obviously some very, very strong dynamics off of Oregon and Washington, spreading into Vancouver and Seattle for early Wednesday. You can see this ridging across the western U.S., some significant troughing in the Midwest. And yeah, that's quite a wrapped up system there. Upper level dynamics spreading into the northeastern U.S. for Thursday, and then just kind of calming down there for Saturday and Sunday next week as this ridge builds in across the Rockies. So let's take a look at the forecast with the expertly analyzed GFS graphics. We see the front marching eastward into Denver, Albuquerque later tonight and into tomorrow morning, emerging onto the Great Plains as a dry weather system. However, we will see rains developing in eastern Iowa, Wisconsin into the Great Lakes. That's going to be in the nose of the warm advection flowing up from Texas. 50-knot low-level jet helping to support that. Out west, Saturday night into Sunday will be quite cold through the Rockies and Great Basin area, down to 28 at Denver, 25 at Salt Lake City, and 42 at Las Vegas. Again, we're talking about Saturday night. Snow showers possible wrapped around the back of that system in that deformation zone, northwest of the surface low, eastern Montana into western Wyoming. Rains spreading into Washington and Oregon. It's been a recurring theme. Looking for a possibility of snow developing in Spokane, the Blue Mountains, down to Burns as that wave moves inland. Then we go into Sunday. Cold air sinking into Iowa, Kansas, the Texas Panhandle. There's that weather system coming out of northwest Mexico. Quite interesting. We don't see too much in the way of significant weather in that part of the continent. That tends to be a very dry interior plateau area with Pacific influence. So when we see significant weather like that, that's definitely interesting to weather forecasters. We are looking at those storms and showers developing across Texas, some of that filled with the remnants of Tropical Storm Sara. The low-level jet slow to get established. That's going to be later on Sunday night into Monday morning. There's that squall line coming together west of Fort Worth, moving rapidly eastward during the day into Arkansas and the Ozarks. Highs across much of the northern plains in the 50s, with 60s further south around Dallas. Snow showers all through the northern Rockies as this next cold air mass moves in. And then going into Tuesday, we see that as a burst of cold air through Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, Utah, producing some snow showers around Grand Island, Goodland, and back towards Denver. Showers across all of the Great Lakes area that will be in the form of rain, which is kind of unusual for this time of year. This is kind of an October-like pattern out in the eastern U.S. And you may remember this was looking like a major Great Lakes system. You can see how the model has flip-flopped on that idea. So not quite as strong. And we could see a similar situation going off the northwest coast. What looks like a record-breaking system may end up weakening. So we'll just check back and see what happens. A major plunge of cold air, 522 decameter thicknesses, moving down through North Dakota. And going into Wednesday and Thursday, this next weather system moves into Washington, northern Idaho. Looks a little bit warm. Snow showers only in the highest elevations. That's due to that plentiful supply of warm air. Then we go into Saturday. Looks like a major atmospheric river into California and Oregon. IVTs could be 1,000 to 1,200, so there could be major problems along the coastal ranges from Fort Bragg, Eureka, up to North Bend and Astoria. That's 8 days away, so we'll just have to monitor that as well. And this is another map that I wanted to show you. This is kind of unusual. We don't usually look this far west, but this shows Alaska, the Bering Sea, Siberia, with the Chukotka region right there. And typically this area is covered by cold air that just sits there. The ocean areas around it are rather mild, but whenever we get a burst of cold air surging across the warmer waters, that tends to kick up baroclinicity and the development of frontal systems. And we're certainly looking at something like that coming up for next week. There's a very deep system off of Magadan and Petropavlovsk right there. Cold front, warm front, and watch this lift northward, producing some very stormy weather along the Siberian coast. A deep low-pressure area. Okay, so we got a cold front right there, warm front, and warm advection all through the Bering Sea area. And that lifts northward. That'll affect parts of western Alaska going into Thursday. Strong cold front, strong warm front, 968 millibar low. Around Anadir that lifts northward, 955 millibars, and a vast area of very strong cold advection sweeping across the Bering Sea. So I thought some of you might find that interesting, because some of our weather does come from there from time to time. And I'm just now noticing this in western Siberia, a very deep weather system. Usually this area is under high pressure, but here we see a very deep low. That could just be the GFS blowing up again, but, you know, we'll try to keep tabs on this and see what happens. That looks like another cold burst. Man, that's a strong pressure gradient right there. And if that comes together, that will certainly produce some interesting weather out there in the Sea of Okhotsk. And that is all for this edition of Forecast Lab. We'll be back again on Monday for the supporters. So if you want to get signed up for that, just head over to Patreon and you'll get that delivered straight to your email or your mobile device. Otherwise, we'll see you on Wednesday. Take care and hope you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.